Hello, friends. I'm Anderson Marchak,
And I'm Ricardo Segura.
and we are the Panel Bros. Welcome to the panel.
Welcome to the panel.
All
Yeah,
right, here we are.
yeah. Let's do it.
We are continuing our little binge, so to speak, of shark movies. So
Yeah,
we've already done Jaws, and we've done Deep Blue Sea. So we're gonna close out here. Just one more shark movie as the summer is coming to an end. Here it is, early September 2023, and there was no doubt which one we were going to do. It's one of my favorites.
yeah.
And let's get to it here. It was directed by Jaume Collet-Serra and released June 24th of 2016. Today, we are going to be discussing The Shallows.
The Shallows. I was so happy that we talked about it because this was a movie that I feel like I haven't really talked to many people about it outside of you, and I feel like it might be one of those underappreciated films. You know what I mean? Because very basic premise, very small cast, relies a lot on performance and a shark, and I feel like it kind of goes under the radar a little bit. So when you were like, "Oh, let's do it," I was happy to watch it again because I think I'd only seen it maybe once, twice max. But I'm pretty sure I've only seen it once prior to us getting ready to discuss it, and getting to watch it again, it was like getting to watch the movie again for the first time because there was a lot of small intricate details that I had forgotten that just made the movie even better. And this movie relies on one person, man, Blake Lively. So when you were like, let's do it, I was like, you know, all pun intended, let's dive in.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of these types of performances where the movie relies on one person. It's very hard to pull off, and we'll go into that
Mhm.
as we discuss the movie. Um, but when we first came up the idea to talk about Jaws and well, let's do a couple shark movies, this was on my list. So,
Oh yeah.
all right, let's get started here.
Yeah.
So we have an opening scene here, and we don't know it yet, but it's done out of order. It's from later on in the movie. We
Hmm.
see a kid watching the video of surfers, and you could feel the tension every time the camera went under the water, every single time, because you're like, oh, it's coming, it's coming, it's
Yep.
coming,
Yep. We're
you
waiting
know,
for it.
and then unfortunately we get the shot of the shark. We see the
Yep.
shark coming at the camera. So shortly after the death of her mother due to cancer, we have medical student Nancy Adams, and she's traveling to a secluded beach in Mexico. It's the same beach her mother visited while she was pregnant with her.
Hmm.
And Carlos, a local resident, gives Nancy a ride and drops her off at the beach. And she's staying with a friend who came along, but the friend decides to stay back at the hotel after partying too much the night before.
Yeah.
And we're setting the tone for the movie here. She's
Hmm.
in the car, she's texting. We see the little pop-ups next to the phone. It's really nice.
Yeah.
She's texting her friend. I think she's texting her. Well, she'll be talking to her little sister soon, but
Hmm.
and then he's telling her, he's like, no, put the camera down. This is real. You're looking at
Yeah.
pictures right now. This is
Yep.
real.
Yep. We're learning a little bit here. She is, as we can see, she's alone. She's being taken to the beach by a local, and right off the bat, like I was like, even if this wasn't a shark movie, I'm like, oh man, like you got to be very brave because she's in a secluded location. She doesn't necessarily know the language really well. She's using her phone to help translate, and again, she's completely by herself. And I'm like, man, that's already scary in itself. Is to just be in a place that you're not familiar with, not being too familiar with the language. But she's got a personal reason for being there, and it's a special reason. So it's not one of those situations where I'm like, oh my gosh, she's so dumb. Why are you out there? The fact that she lost her mother, and there's this place that her mother would visit when she carried her as a baby. There's an emotional connection. So it's not, again, I'm not listening to this and be like, oh, why are you by yourself? I'm like, no, because even if even if her friend was there, it's like there's gonna be a couple moments where I'm like, she has to take this in herself. Like this is for her, and the relationship she had with her mother that she no longer has. So we're learning a little bit in these first few minutes just riding in the truck.
So she doesn't even know the name of the beach. All she's going off of is a picture of the horizon where the islands create the shape of a woman uh, on the other side. So that's how she knew. She looked and she said, "Oh, look!" She's pointing to the woman, talking to the man, Carlos. Um, for the first time of many during the movie, we get our first nice shot of Blake Lively's face taking
Mhm.
things in. And when she sees it, like you could just tell she's so happy to be there. She's just taking everything in. And I love that overhead shot of the beach. It just looks so nice. It was good.
It looks like a private paradise,
Yeah.
like there's not a lot of people. You get to really soak it in. There's a lot of connections and things and whatnot between strength and her mother and being somber and acceptance, and just the idea of like sometimes we need that peace, like we need that. And I'm sure with everything that's been going on in her life that she can just be in this one area that is secluded and that is closed off and just bringing his beauty. And I thought it was a good point when he said, "Hey, put your phone down. Like this is real." And like sometimes we forget that, and it's nice to know that within the movie, the character at that moment kind of gets to take it all in.
So upon getting to the beach, she joins two other locals and they end up surfing for a few hours. And to your point, you kind of get this weird feeling because you see them in the distance and they're talking to
Mm-hmm.
her. And she's like, "No, I'm fine over here."
Yeah,
And you're like, "Oh, no. I hope it
I can't
doesn't."
help it.
Right. It's like, I hope this doesn't go south, but
Yes.
eventually they both start surfing together like nothing's
Yeah.
wrong, you
Yep.
know?
And it's that initial fear that I had. Like I said, I'm like, oh my gosh, she's in an unfamiliar territory, doesn't really know the language, and immediately she's there, and it's just her and two other men. And listen, I know it's a shark movie, but there was a part of me that was like, how is this gonna go?
Right.
Like, how is this gonna go? But it goes relatively smooth, and they have a great time.
Yeah, we get these incredible shots of Nancy surfing, and I did a little research here. Apparently, they were all a double. They were all a double.
Oh, okay, okay.
Blake couldn't surf at all. There was one shot where it looks like she's doing it. I'm pretty sure
It
that wasn't
looks
her.
good. Yeah, the
Yeah,
shots look good. Like there was a moment where I was like, is she really
it
doing
looked
it?
like her, like
It
catching the
did.
wave, but I
Mhm.
think that might have been CGI. I'm pretty sure of it. So I
Possibly.
read that. Yeah, I read that all she could do was paddle. That's what she said. So
Listen, I can't surf. I can't pretend to know what it's like to surf. I can imagine that it's extremely hard. And hey, look, a double got a few days of work, so that's a win-win for everybody.
So she's taking a little break from the surfing. She video chats with her younger sister Chloe, and then she talks to her father. They have a little bit of an emotional conversation. Uh, it gets revealed that Nancy's a senior in school, um, but her mom's death caused her to consider dropping out of med school before graduation. So she's almost ready to graduate to become a
Mhm,
doctor. And there was a line that her father dropped, and her dad said she was a fighter, and then Nancy tells her, well, she fought too hard. And
mhm.
that kind of hit me a little bit. So they're all still reeling from this death, unfortunately, and
Yeah.
to the point that Nancy, she dropped out of med school because she's like, I need a break from everything. And
Mhm.
we'll come back to her being a doctor one day down the line because it comes into play during the movie.
Yeah.
So she decides to go surfing again for one more time, and she is by herself at this point. And then all of a sudden, we get a little bit of a jump scare, but it's dolphins. You
Yeah.
know,
Again, like the movie has a lot of fun teasing you. And I thought this was it. Like I forgot. Again, I completely forgot. And then there was a dolphin that jumps out. And I was like, oh, okay. Nice little jump scare, but I'm all right. It's just Echo the Dolphin, so we're all good.
yeah. Nancy notices the carcass of a humpback whale nearby,
Yeah.
and it stinks. And she's like, "Well, what's going on here?" So she tries to investigate the situation. While she's riding one more wave back to the beach, a large shark knocks her off her surfboard and bites her leg.
Yep.
And Nancy has to climb onto the whale carcass to save herself from being eaten by the shark. It's not revealed in the movie, but apparently here in the plot summary, it says the shark's 23 feet long, and of course, it's a great white.
Of course. The shot where she gets bit,
Yes.
the way they chose to frame it and shoot it, it was horrifying. She gets pulled under, and usually when we watch shark movies, we get to see from the surface the blood. We usually see it from the surface, right? Because we're above the water watching below. But in this moment, we're under the water with her and seeing the water go from this beautiful, clear, crystal blue to just complete red. Like there isn't in any other essence of color besides red. And it's almost as if she's swimming in a red ocean. Like the way they framed and shot it was so eerie. It's as if someone put like a giant red light on. And I just appreciate it because we don't really see that. I can't really recall a time in a shark film where I've got an instance where someone was being attacked where the entire frame is just red, and I thought that it really added to the terrifying nature of it all, where you were in this beautiful paradise 1 second, and now it's essentially a hellscape, and it took one good gash out of her leg, man, and I was like, this is it. Like you don't survive that. I guess the movie's over. You know what I mean? But no, she's a fighter, and we'll keep talking about that more and more.
So she starts screaming at the shore for people to help her. And it's just heartbreaking because Blake is just, we're going to talk about this performance as we go
Yeah.
along here, but she's just pouring herself into this. Please help me. It's so sad. And unfortunately, Nancy is left alone when the locals, they leave the beach.
Mm-hmm.
The shark rams the humpback whale from underneath, forcing her to swim to an isolated rock. And this is due to the low tide and such.
Mm-hmm.
She races there, and it's oh man, from behind you see it, the shark coming,
Yup.
and it's so intense. So she gets to the rock, and she uses her surfboard leash to slow the bleeding from her leg to make a tourniquet.
Yep.
And she uses jewelry, earring, necklace, and such to put some type of stitches in place to hold the torn flesh together. Not sewing, but maybe to kind of suture everything here.
Yeah, that was painful to
Yeah.
watch, man. Like, first of all, you do get to see the gash, and it is a gnarly gash. First of all, I just want to talk about the fact that the shark like straight up bum rushed the whale just to knock her off.
Right.
And it was at this moment where I'm like, all right, this is a man eater. Like this is 100% a man eater. Usually when you watch movies, they're like, oh, they don't really taste the humans too much. It's always this or that. It's not being too identified. They're like, oh, they think you're a seal. This shark is a man eater. I have a headcanon on why I think the shark is this way, and we'll wait till we get a little bit way through the movie. I'm over here giving a backstory to the shark.
Yeah.
But I was like, this thing wants her because, hey, look, there's a whale right here. There is plenty for this shark to feast on, depending on how old the whale is or whatnot. But it wants her badly. And she makes the rock, like you said. But when she takes her earrings, and she can't really sew it. So she's almost doing like a stapler. Like it's like stapling it shut, and she's clamping it. And man, that hurt. Like you can hear it going through her flesh, and she's screaming and letting out this guttural pain. And it's one of those moments again that shows us how strong she is. Because I'm letting you know right now, man. It would probably take me a lot more for me to have the cojones to do that, and for her character to be like, "This is what I gotta do." Uses the leash, takes her earrings, pop, and just takes it. And I was like, "Man, yeah, you a lot tougher than I am."
You can tell her medical background just come to the forefront here. She's talking herself through it as if she's helping a patient. And she's
Yes.
saying, ma'am, we have you some anesthesia. You're not going to feel this. And just, and all right, well, we need to suture this here. And then she's screaming in between each time she's doing it, and all right, well, we have the tourniquet here. So, you just feel it as she's dealing with it there. Nancy spends the night on the rock with a wounded gull, and the gull was injured in the swim over to the rock there, and she names the gull Steven Seagull.
Steven Seagull, baby. He's poor thing. He's my second favorite character in the movie. Obviously, it's her and it's Steven Seagull, and he's got like the there's obviously some metaphor at play here, and mirroring, because he's got this gull has a bum wing. You know what I mean? He can't really fly off the rocks. It's trapped there, just like she is. So they're kind of in it together.
Yeah. So over the course of the night, she decides that maybe she needs to restore some blood flow in her leg because now she can see that there's gangrene setting in.
Hmm.
She's starting to lose feeling in it. So she undoes it. She says, "All right, you get 2 minutes," because thankfully her watch still works.
Yeah.
So she's like, "All right, well, you get 2 minutes to restore," because she knows she's losing blood. So she restores blood flow. She's like, "Come on, come on," and then finally you see the toes wiggle. So um, she sees the crabs crawling all over her. That's what woke her up.
Hmm.
So she smacks the one, and then she's like, "Crap, I gotta eat.
Yeah, you gotta eat
Like
it.
I need
Use strength.
energy." And in almost an homage to Castaway, she eats it, and she promptly vomits right
Yep, just
afterward.
right. And Steven Seagal's like, "Well, if you're not gonna eat it, I'm gonna eat it."
Yeah,
And she's just like, "Ugh, gross." You know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah, yeah. So, kind of I remember when Tom Hanks. That was when he ate the bird, and
Yeah.
then yeah, and then he vomited, and later on he's just eating fish
Yep.
raw.
Yep. Yeah.
Eventually,
It's bro. He knows what he's doing now. So yeah.
yeah,
So in that moment, she was like, "I got to eat some,"
it's
and
yeah.
I can only imagine how gross that
Yeah,
was.
I mean, it's shellfish, so she probably would have been able to get away with it. It's not the same as
Mhm.
eating bird. Eating
Yeah.
raw fish is different from eating raw bird. So I was thinking, oh, she'll be okay. Nope, she wasn't.
Nope. She was like, "Nope, can't handle
Um,
this."
she sees her board out there, so she's thinking, well, maybe this can help me.
Hmm.
So she goes to swim to the board, and we see the blood coming out from her leg, and that's when the shark comes back. So either the shark was waiting for her, or
Hmm.
the shark smelled the blood, and that's what made
Yeah.
the shark come back again. The next morning, a drunk man, he's on the beach, and she sees him, and she's thinking, "Oh, you can help me. You
Yep.
can help me." And he ends up stealing Nancy's belongings, and she's trying to wade out. Excuse me, he's going out into the shallow water now,
Hmm.
thinking he can steal her surfboard, and
Yep.
he is killed by the shark too. And at
Oh
this
man.
point, you find out the type of person Nancy is. So she sees him stealing her stuff, and she's like, "You can keep it. Just call
Yeah.
for help."
Get
She
out of the
doesn't
water, dude.
care. You can keep all that stuff. And
Yeah,
now
you can
he's
keep
coming in
it.
the water. And now she's going from, "You can keep my stuff," to, "Please get out of the water. You don't deserve to die because you stole
Nope.
stuff from me." You know what I'm
Yep.
saying? So, just compassionate. And
Yeah.
she's begging him, "No, no, no." He gets pulled under. And then you see this look of horror on her face as she sees him eaten by the shark. It's terrifying. I was already in the movie by now. I was in it.
Yeah.
But this is the moment where I started to become impressed by her performance because we don't see a single thing. Blake Lively, you just see her looking off into at the shore, and she does this.
Yeah. The hand over the mouth. Yep.
She just covers her mouth. And then we get to the beach and we see why. We don't see him get eaten. We only see
Mm-mm.
her sell the moment. My dude's crawling on the beach, bitten in half. You see his bottom half, and he's
Oh,
crawling. Terrible.
just the torso. And like you said, like it was a really good scene to showcase her character, like you mentioned, because she's thinking she's out of here. She goes, "Oh my God, thank you so much. My phone's over there. Please help." And he grabs it, and she sees him place a phone in his pocket, grab her belongings. And she's like, "Please, no, you can keep it. Just call for help." And he's waving, and you're like, "Oh man, this guy's a jerk." You know what I mean? Like, he is
Right.
a jerk. And then he starts coming into the water, and I was going, "Well, why is he coming into? Oh, he's gonna steal her board."
Right.
And like you said, immediately she's like, "Get out of the water." And she
Right.
is pleading with him, "Get out of the water. There's a shark. Please get out." Like you said, at no point is she upset. Is
Nope.
she angry with him? She's like, "No, you're gonna die. Get out of the water." And everything sells in her performance because, like you said, he's taken underwater. You don't see it. He's just gone. And everything's relying on her selling the horrific nature of what she's seeing, and you felt it. And it's almost like the movie said, "You want to see what you want to see? Do you want to see?" And then they showed us, and like we as the audience almost react the same way, because this was the moment that I almost metaphorically put my hand over my mouth, and which was like, "Oh my God," because you do see him split in half. You see his lower half, and you see his top half, and he's crawling away. And it's just like, that is truly horrific. And she captured, even if they didn't show me that, it didn't matter, because she was able to grasp the graphic nature of what she saw really, really well with her performance. Just hand over the mouth, and everything was in her eyes. Just everything was here, and you just felt it.
So a few hours later, the two locals that Nancy was surfing with earlier, they return. It's the following day. So now it's been a day she's been out there. They get into the water, but this is before Nancy can, tell them, please don't come in.
Mhm.
Well, she's screaming shark, and over there they're going, I don't see any sharks. They think she's playing around, you
Yeah, yeah,
know?
and he even, I think he even says like, no, it's, there's no sharks here. Like he's like, there's no shark, there's no shark. You know what I mean? And it's like, oh man, they're in trouble.
Yeah, and unfortunately they get eaten by the shark too.
Mhm.
Um, the one we see the shark come out of the water and get him.
Dude, like what you would see on Shark Week on Discovery Channel. This
Yeah,
thing jumps out of the water, dude, and
right.
just grabs him. And I was like, oh my God.
Right. And then you're rooting for the other one with the GoPro.
Yep.
And unfortunately, he just, he makes it to the rock, but then he gets dragged under,
Hmm.
so didn't work out for him. We keep getting reminders about the high tide. And this is important because once the high tide hits, the rock she's on will now be submerged in the water,
Yep.
and the shark will be able to get her.
And he keeps trying, dude. Like this shark keeps trying.
Alrighty. So the two locals she was swimming with, they got killed by the shark now.
Hmm.
Um, we have a little break from all the action to see Nancy interact with the seagull. And once again, this is just showing Nancy's humanity.
Hmm.
And we get to find out that the seagull has a dislocation in the joint for the wing. And she helps pop it back into place. And he bites her. And
Yeah,
she says, hey, that's no way to thank somebody that just helped you. It's cute. It's a
it
cute
is.
scene. But we get just the sense of compassion from her that she wants to help people.
Hmm.
And she's hurting emotionally. But so the only reason she stopped school was because her mom died. She doesn't want to quit. She
No.
still cares about people, but she's just doing this to take this break for herself, you
Yeah.
know, as a mental health break. So, what are your thoughts on this scene here where she's helping the seagull, Ricardo?
It's a good scene, and I think like you said, it really shows her humanity because she's in a very, very bad predicament. She's losing blood, she is injured, that the tide is rising little by little. The idea that, she could end up losing her life out there, and in that moment her priority is not herself, her priority is helping this seagull. And to many people in that situation, they could probably view it as it's just a bird, right? Like it's just a seagull. Like I've got bigger problems to worry about. Like that mentality would be the mentality of a lot of people in that situation. It's like, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? How am I going to get out of here? But for a moment, she's like, I can help this seagull. There's no obligation. There's no mandatory nature for her to be like, I have to do this. She's choosing to do it. After everything that she's been through up to this point, I'm sure she is still in a lot of pain. She is starving. She's probably dehydrated. She's going through a lot. She's extremely uncomfortable. There's probably a thought process of like, I may have to amputate my leg at some point. But during these moments, again, it really showcases her humanity and why that profession suits her so well, because she truly cares about helping others. And it's such a small scene, but it's a really, really important one. And like you said, I do like when the seagull kind of nibbles on her finger and she like holds it around and it's still like nibbling on her finger. And she's like, that's a weird way to say thank you. You know what I mean? Like she doesn't hold any animosity. She's not like, hey, what are you doing? You know what I mean? Doesn't shove. No, it's just like, hey, like I understand that was painful for you, but I did that to help you. And it really, again, it's just another aspect of showing who she is as a person. And to your point, she didn't want to drop out of medical school. She didn't want to stop, but going through the stress that she went through with losing her mother was just a lot. Sometimes you got to take that step away. But it almost felt like it was letting us, the audience, know that she couldn't stay away, that she can't stay away. Even though she's on this rock all alone, she can't stay away from that person, that person, who she is, that nature of herself, the willingness and her wanting to help others. And again, to many, it's just a seagull, but it's what that moment represented. And it's another reason why we like that character so much.
So the one surfer that was wearing the GoPro helmet, when he was attacked by the shark, his helmet came off and it floated
Mm-hmm.
nearby. So Nancy sees the helmet floating, and she's thinking, well, maybe this thing can help me.
Yeah.
And now we start seeing just, I mean, we already knew she was intelligent, but now we see how intelligent she really is here. Um, she times the path of the shark that it takes to go from the whale to the rock,
Yes.
and it ends up being 32 seconds. So she's thinking, I can make that, you know?
Yeah.
So she's able to use this and swim to the other rock and get the camera floating by. Um, we learn how intelligent she is here. After some struggle, she is able to retrieve it, but not before it gets super quiet and we
Oh.
get another jump scare of the shark jumping out of the water and onto the rock
Yup.
right behind her.
And it's
This
this
was,
thing is trying so
yeah,
hard to get her, dude. Like that's all I was like, dude, this thing is a man eater. I'm like, this thing is waiting for her.
right,
And it is on there just chomping away while she's on the rocks.
right. And she was able to notice that the only thing that scared it away was the coral, which stings,
Hmm.
like a jellyfish. So, and we will come
Yep.
back to that here. So, when she makes it back to the other rock again, she's looking at the footage of the attack on the two locals. She sees the shark has a large hook stuck in its mouth after an encounter with fishermen, we're assuming here. So she starts using the GoPro to leave messages for her sister and her father, as well as information about the shark attack and her location. Um, I'm thinking maybe if she doesn't make it, or maybe if she can get this to the shore, something like that, you
Hmm.
know? And I guess this is when you could share your theory about the shark.
Listen, when I saw the hook in the mouth, and this is me playing headcanon for me, for my sake of playing headcanon. You see the hook in its mouth, but the shark is also covered in a lot of scars. The shark has a lot of scars.
Right.
So I'm like, man, is this one of those situations where this thing is legitimately angry at people? You know what I mean? Like it is a man eater because this thing doesn't just take off. This thing waits for her. That it doesn't matter if a day has gone by, it is waiting in this area knowing she's there, and it's trying so hard jumping onto the rocks. And I'm like, has this thing gone through numerous battles with fishermen? Has this been one of those situations where this has taken claim to this area, and fishermen have tried to get it, and it's been poked, prodded, stabbed, cut, got a hook in its mouth, that now it is so angry that it's like, no, anything in this area I will devour. I will kill it. Because again, this thing doesn't seem like it's eating just to eat at this point. This thing is taking people out left and right, any opportunity that it gets. And then again, you have this giant whale there, and it's like, oh, like, did that again? This is just me. This is tinfoil hat me. I'm like, oh, well, what happened to the whale? Did the whale just, you know, end up dying too close to the shoreline? Was this taken out by fishermen? Was this a shark attack? I don't know. So I'm like, man, this area just probably knows a lot of violence. And this shark, for whatever reason, is angry, just very, very angry. So I'd like to believe in my head that this shark just has a personal vendetta, which is why it's trying so admirably hard. At this point, I would have been like, okay, the shark's been out there over 24 hours. He's just going to leave. He's like, no, I'm waiting for you. I'm waiting for you. So again, in my head, I'd like to think that the shark is just very, very angry.
So, with high tide approaching, Nancy realizes that the rock will be submerged soon. And after sending Steven Seagull toward the shore on a piece of a surfboard, and timing the shark's circles from the whale carcass to the rock, Nancy ends up swimming to a nearby buoy. And she just narrowly avoids a shark by swimming through a group of jellyfish, which sting both the shark and her.
Yeah.
So, we just said it, even though she was scared by the shark jumping up on the rock, she did remember that the shark got stung by the coral. So
Hmm.
she's thinking, okay, the shark didn't like that. It's not going to like getting stung by the jellyfish. So we get this really cool shot of her under the water and the
Yep.
jellyfish, nice and lit up. And she's getting stung, but they're helping protect her
Yeah.
from the shark as she's swimming to the buoy. Nancy gets to the buoy and she finds a flare gun. And she shoots one flare to draw the attention of a cargo ship, but the ship is already turned away and it doesn't see her,
Yeah.
unfortunately. So she gets a little bit of hope, but then it's
Yeah.
taken away. Anytime she gets a little bit of hope, it gets taken away,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
They give you just enough. And like it doesn't even really it doesn't really get to do the beautiful like firework explosion because it's been soaked in the water. So like you almost get somewhat of a dud. It doesn't really get to have the impact that she wants from the flare, and they don't see it regardless. And you're just like, well, that didn't work out.
So Nancy just says, "You know what? I'm just going to start firing this flare gun at the shark. I'm mad. I have no idea if it's going to do anything." So she
Bro,
starts
it's
fly. She fires at the shark, and eventually one of the shots sets the oil from the whale carcass because the blubber,
yeah,
it's flammable, and it ends up lighting up the water and the shark. It angers the shark, but unfortunately, it doesn't have any effect here. So this is a really cool scene when she's on the buoy because the movie changes almost once she makes it to the buoy.
yeah,
Um, uh, it gets a little bit more intense. She starts aiming the gun at the shark, and it's almost like Jaws, where he
yep.
has the gun and
He's
he's
like,
aiming.
smile, you son of a
You're
yeah.
right, right. And instead of that, she says "F you,"
Yeah.
and
She drops that bomb. She's angry because this thing's not letting up. It's banging into buoy. It's biting and chomping like everything. And she's just like, you know what? I'm tired of this. F you, and then pulls the trigger.
right. And once again, I'd like. All right, so maybe there was a little homage to Castaway because she's by herself,
Mhm.
but this part for sure, I was feeling Jaws just with the way she was propped up there, pointing
Mhm.
the gun at the water and everything. To me, I was feeling Brody there, down to the
Yeah.
cursing at that moment
Mhm.
too. And by the way, um, this is the only time we hear her say that word or anybody say that word because it is rated PG-13.
PG-13. We get one F bomb. We got one
Yeah.
F bomb, and she gave us a good one too. She was like, "Nope." Had the flare gun. She saw the oil in the water, and the dorsal fin was out, and she was like, "You know what? F you."
Right.
Pow.
So the shark gets mad and starts attacking the buoy and
Hard.
rips out the chain, securing it to the ocean bed. So we see her just rocking
Yeah.
back and forth, back and forth. Nancy straps herself to the last remaining chain as it is ripped from the buoy. So she is now getting pulled down to the ocean floor, being pursued by the shark. At the last moment, Nancy pulls out of the dive, and the shark impales itself on the rebar protruding from the buoy below. This is a really cool scene here
It was
because
awesome.
she I don't know if she knew she was going to do it until she saw,
Mhm.
because she's just thinking, "Oh, this chain is heavy enough to let me get away."
Yeah.
And maybe I can swim. I don't know what she's thinking at this point.
Yeah.
But as she's going down, she sees the rebar. So, in a suspension of disbelief moment, she is fast enough to swim out of the way.
It was
And the
this
shark
scene
eats the rebar. So,
this scene was so cool, man, because like again, the whole movie, it's a survival movie. It's just her dealing with what she has around her. And this got like it was very MacGyver, you know what I mean? Like she's figuring out what she can do, and she's grabbing onto the chain, and it just pulls her, man. Like it pulls her, and the shark is right on her, and you get a great shot of her being pulled down really fast, and the shark is swimming right behind her really fast, and she notices the rebar, and right there you're like, all right, we know what the move is. Is she going to be able to pull it off? I don't know. And she's able, at like you said, at the very last second, just pivot out of the way, and this shark, man, this shark folds in half on this thing. It goes with so much force, and the rebar stabs it in like five different directions, and just immediately, bam, bottom of the ocean, dead. This whole sequence was it was very creative. It
yeah.
was very cool, and it felt very like action adventure oriented. Where the rest of the movie is it's the movie's not slow paced, but it's like it takes its time to get to certain action beats and whatnot. But this felt like a ride. Like this was awesome. And again, she was a beast, man. She was angry. She was so angry at this point. And like you, I don't know what the plan was, but she knew she had to get out of where she was very fast. Because again, this thing was chewing through the buoy. This thing was done. The shark was angry. It was chewing through the buoy. It was tearing it in pieces. So there's really nowhere else for her to go. If she tries to swim to the shore, she's a goner. So she's like, I can at least use this to create a really a big distance very fast. And luckily for her, there just happened to be a bunch of rebar that she got to use.
So later on, a boy named Miguel from the opening of the film at the beach, he finds the GoPro, and then he informs his father, who we find out is Carlos, the man that was
Mm-hmm.
taking her to the beach. Carlos finds Nancy floating close by. He jumps in the water to save her. And as he's saving her, she sees a hallucination of her mother.
Mm-hmm.
And, just an emotional moment here. And she's just like, I'm going to make it. Mom,
Yeah.
I am going to make it. It's like, I thought I was going to die. I thought I was going to join you,
Yeah.
but no, I made it. She looks around the beach. She sees that Steven Seagull has made it to the shore. Yes.
That
So,
was a nice moment because I was worried. I was like, listen,
yes.
we saw a bird die in deep blue sea. I thought that was what we were gonna get. That after she helped the bird by fixing its wing and put on the board, that we were gonna get a very, very sad shot of like the shark taking out the
Right.
seagull. And we never got that. And luckily we got to see that Steven Seagull made it
Yeah.
to the beach and
And you
survived.
know what? I'm wondering, maybe this was a shout out to Deep Blue Sea and the parrot, the
I
bird.
maybe who knows,
So
but the bird made it, and I was
yeah, the
very
bird made it.
happy.
So we fast forward a year, and Nancy's all healed up now. She's graduated now. She's a
Mm-hmm.
doctor,
Yep.
and she and her sister they go surfing, but they're in Texas, Galveston,
Mm-hmm.
and their father is there. And her father tells Nancy that her mother would have been very proud of her for not giving up,
Mm-hmm.
and that's our movie.
Not giving up. And it's great because like there's many different aspects of not giving up. She didn't give up on her medical career. She didn't give up on herself. When it came to her survival instinct, she never gave up. She went back to school. She finished. There's a lot of that aspect of just not giving up. And again, when I was watching this movie, I kept thinking I would never go into water again, right? Like
Right.
I'd never go into water again. But it shows her character. She doesn't give up. She doesn't quit, and she's not gonna let a bad experience change who she is. And even though she had this horrific experience with this shark in one location, that's not going to intimidate her from going to do the things that she loves, whether it's surfing or anything else. But in this moment, it's surfing. It's surfing with her family, and she goes right back into the water. And they crack a nice small joke about being faster, and she's like, it's never going to happen. And they go, and it's a really nice closing for the film.
So just whenever I rewatch this movie, the first thing that comes to mind for me is one of the reasons I enjoy it so much is that The Shallows is a short movie and they get right
Oh
to the
yeah,
point. It's an hour and 26 minutes long.
bro, quick movie.
Yeah, but
This is one of those fun movies that I feel like you could put this on at any time. You
right,
can put this on at any time and you'll be able to get through it, sit, enjoy it, and then carry on.
absolutely. And we'll get to it in a second here. Just the main thing about the movie that I enjoy most, but
Mm-hmm.
it was a box office success. The budget was 17 million, and it ended up making 119 million at the box
Good.
office. So
Good.
good for Jomi. And I found out that apparently Lively really broke her nose.
Oh
There was
wow.
a scene where she hurt herself. Yeah, she really broke her nose. Um, as far as taking the role on, she was inspired by her husband Ryan Reynolds in Buried, and
Bro.
to take on the role. So that was before they got together. But she thought about him and that and said, you know what? He did a movie where he was the main person performing. I think I can do that too.
I'm
So
glad she did it. I'm glad because
yeah,
there is something I think it's it really tests an actor. We've heard movies where you can have a big cast where a film can still kind of fall on the shoulders of the lead. It's like, oh, if your lead character is this or that. But then when you are completely alone,
yeah,
again, we have some supporting characters in here, but Blake is carrying this movie alone. It's essentially her and a shark this entire time. And her being able to emote, um, give us some great dramatic performance in this film, somber moments, joy, excitement, like everything. And it's a testament to her as an actor. And I think it's pretty great that she did it after watching Ryan Reynolds in Buried, because that, like you said, that's a movie that falls solely on his performance. He carries it through. And I gotta say, if she needs to hear it, then by all means, Blake, like, you absolutely carried this movie in such a positive way. The same way many would argue that Ryan carried Buried. You carried The Shallows because you were great.
yeah. Um, I looked it up. Sully the Seagull was real,
Yes.
and Steven Seagull. uh, he apparently he was really injured. That's why he didn't fly away.
Oh,
So he
wow.
was
Okay.
really injured. Apparently there were three different seagulls,
Okay.
but Sully was the one that was with her the most, and
Mhm.
mostly because. And then I didn't see how they found out that the seagull was injured, but
Mhm.
it added to the movie, and it definitely it gave Blake Lively an amazing co-star.
It did. I look, I liked the seagull. I did because of what it represented. And again, you have the moment where she takes care of it.
Yeah,
And I think that especially like if you go to the shore a lot, a seagull, again, to many people, it's just a bird, man. But the movie gives a little weight to the seagull and what it really represents. So I'm glad that her co-star was Steven Seagal. He was dope.
yeah. So at this point in time, we usually give a shout out to the cast,
All right,
and
Blake, thank you so much.
yeah, exactly. Basically, I
Yeah.
mean, shout out to the father, Brett Cullen as Mr. Adams,
Hmm.
and Sedona Leggy as Chloe Adams. We have Oscar Janeda as Carlos, but sorry, Blake Lively. She carried the whole
Blake
movie.
killed it, man. She killed
Absolutely
it.
amazing. A performance to remember. The first thing I thought about when I left the movie theater was, man, that was a great movie, but this movie does not work without the performance of Blake Lively.
Yeah.
And when you're watching the movie, like, to me, the ultimate solo performance would probably be Tom Hanks in Castaway.
I love that movie.
I think about a lot of movies where one person was the lead,
Mhm.
and it's based in the water, so of course you get the little similarities, but you know, I just thought about Tom Hanks in Castaway, and
Yeah.
um, it was just like, wow, good for you, And she, we talk about this a lot. She bucks the trend of being not just another pretty face, because she was another actor known
Mhm.
for that. She's coming off a Gossip Girl. She's done a few things here and there. I want to say she was in The Age of Adeline before this, and she did all right in that movie. But
Mhm.
this was the one where it was just like, no, I can act. Just give me the right material, and I will give you a performance. And that was, if I'm not mistaken, that was what was driving the promotion for this movie.
Yeah.
People were they weren't selling this as a scary horror movie. They were selling this as, oh, this is a horror movie, but please come see this to see Blake Lively's performance.
Yeah. And like you said, like it was a great moment for her to prove herself because depending on previous projects, a lot of people can be labeled that way. Especially like very beautiful women. They're kind of just like, oh, they're just a pretty face. They're just they're getting roles because and it's like, no, like these are very talented actors. And Blake in a movie where she has to carry it, like you said, the movie doesn't work if the performance isn't there. If the performance wasn't there, the movie doesn't carry as much weight. It would be considered maybe like some random rental for something. You know what I mean? Like it would just be very nonchalant, but her performance is what carries it. And she did a great job. And I think that it was that moment, maybe not just for other people, but maybe for herself. Maybe for her, this was the moment she goes, all right, I showed you, like I showed you what I could do in a movie where it's literally just me and a shark that I really don't get to interact with, and give a performance like she did.
So we're gonna start winding things down here. We've been talking about our favorite shark movies, and we went through obviously Jaws, the greatest, the
Mhm.
goat, and your favorite after Jaws is Deep Blue Sea.
Deep Blue Sea because it's crazy.
Yeah, and for me, it's The Shallows, no doubt.
Yeah.
For me, this is the second best shark movie of all time, and rewatching this movie, I just was reminded of just her performance. She just gets
Yeah.
me, man. Like, she doesn't get you by the beginning part and such. By that moment where she sees the drunk man getting eaten by the shark, and she puts her hand over her mouth, that's the moment. To
Yeah.
me, that's the moment where it's like, oh, she came to play.
Yeah.
She's not here messing around. She's like, oh, I'm going to show you what I can do. So, for me, it's definitely my second favorite. I mean, what are you thinking, Ricardo? Top three shark movie? Top five shark movie? What would you
Oh
say?
yeah, because I mean, listen, there are a lot of shark movies. when I was growing up, that wasn't necessarily the case. But now, again, Sharknado. You could probably go on the Sci-Fi Channel now and
Right.
find tons of shark movies, but there aren't really many shark movies that I would sit back and go, "Yes, I enjoyed it. I would refer it to people to watch it, and I could watch it more than once." There's a very few. Like The Shallows is easily top 5 shark movies, and it's interesting because each shark movie, each of these 3 shark movies land where they are for being different. Like Jaws doesn't feel like Deep Blue Sea. The Shallows doesn't feel like Jaws. Like they all have sharks, but they all feel different, and that's what makes them special. Because there's a lot of shark movies out there that we kind of like, all right, we're gonna have a bunch of people get eaten by sharks and it'll be exciting and that'll be the end of it. But these 3 movies are distinct, so I think that's why they rank where they rank. Again, Jaws is considered the GOAT to many people, including us. Deep Blue Sea is my second favorite because of it went a sci-fi route. I hadn't seen that. It went a real sci-fi route, and it went with Rennie Harlan with the extreme action sequences, and it was different. And then you had The Shallows, which is a performance piece with a shark in it.
Right.
Like there's a it's a shark movie, but it's really a performance piece of an actor doing a great job. And then there happens to be exciting sequences in it. But the exciting sequences aren't what carry the movie. It's the performances, or the performance, I should say. So yeah, I would be crazy not to think that this would be at least in top 5, top 3. Again, there's other movies like 47 Meters Down. There's the
Right.
Sharknado films.
Right.
There's
Open water.
Open Water. Like there's tons of them. There's more than one Jaws movie. Like there are plentiful of shark movies. But I think if you really sat down and said, if someone were to ask me to sit down and be like, "Hey, what are your favorite shark movies?" It'd be hard for me not to list this in my top 3 or top 5, because all the other ones, like I said, I can have fun with silly shark movies. I can easily do that. I can turn my brain off and watch a ridiculous shark movie. But I think that The Shallows is one of those movies that I can legitimately walk away from and go, no, 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 no. Like I enjoy it, but there's no guilty pleasure about it. There's no like, it's fine, it's whatever. It's like, no, no, it's a decent movie. I enjoy the movie, and it's a great performance piece, and that's why it ranks so high where it does.
Alrighty. And let's just say that, so we're gonna stop with the shark movies for now, and
Yeah.
maybe we'll pick up, somewhere down the line again, and revisit
Hmm.
some more shark movies. So we just named quite a few. We have the Meg movies, we have 47 Meters Down, that had a couple
Hmm.
movies, Sharknado, Open Water. So there's plenty more, and we may or may not come back to this again. So alrighty, folks. That was the Panel Bros official breakdown of The Shallows. If you could please give us a like, share, and subscribe on YouTube at the Panel Bros, we'd appreciate it. As always, the more we get those subscribes, the more that helps our reach. And if you could please let us know how you felt about The Shallows in the comments below, please do that as well. How did you like The Shallows? Where does The Shallows rank as far as your favorite shark movie? And how about that performance from Blake Lively? Show some love to Blake Lively in the comments below as well. For Ricardo Segura, this is Anderson Marchak saying, thank you for coming to the panel.